Hey everybody, it's Anne, and I am actually at my new house, and I have the internet working. I've been working from the office the past couple of days because I haven't had the internet up and running and couldn't do my shows without it. So we are live today from Chevy Chase, Maryland, and I am really excited about that. It's nice to be able to work from home because I've got my kids here with me. Before we start the show, I want to talk about burgers and bans for suicide prevention. We have canceled it for this year for the May event. We are going to have a big blowout event in October as long as that's still allowed. But we expected to raise about $100,000 in May, and we haven't done that. So we did get a $2,000 in memoriam donation the other day in memory of someone who's passed away by suicide. And we would like to ask you to please donate. The other thing you can do is if you know somebody who has a family endowment and would like to help us out, I would love an introduction to them. I can tell them all about how we created it. So if you have somebody who you can introduce us to, we would really appreciate it. And here's where I come and beg for something different, which is so easy. Go to youtube.com/BrennaandAnnie and please subscribe because my kids think I'm nerds. I only have about 500 subscribers over there, maybe even not 500. I'd like to get up to at least 1,000 in the next few months so that they don't think I'm a complete nerd. So help me out there. Go over and subscribe. Today we're live here, so on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So you can watch us on any of them. And finally, let me introduce you to our guest today. It's Andrew Leonard with BL Technical, and all of us need him. So we're all living on tech these days. So it's good to know somebody who can help you out. He was a big help to me last night because I'm having a problem with a stupid thing on my laptop, and he sent me over a link and showed me how to walk myself through something. So that was very helpful, Andrew. Thank you for that. So
no problem.
You are the in-house IT department, really. You become our IT department. So can you explain what that means?
Sure. So we are the contract IT department for small businesses. We take care of all the typical help desk needs, anything that you would think that you would engage an IT professional for, whether it's fixing. Did you lose me there?
I did lose you there. Is it my internet?
Well, let's just continue. We're back now. So I was saying that we're the IT department, anything that you would think that a help desk or an IT professional would address, anything from like a computer issue, a network issue, printing issues, whether it's from a broken part in the computer or computer virus, malware issues. And that's a lot along the lines of our first response side of things. And we also maintain the networks and prevent issues through our monitoring platform. We can see things like hard drives failing in servers and computers before they fail so they can be addressed. In fact, I have a 3 o'clock appointment to take care of one of them before it fails. And so the user actually has very little disruption. We've planned it instead of it being scrambled to be dealt with after the fact. And, you know, we get to be a resource for all of the hundreds, maybe thousands of users that we support to make sure that they can ask us questions before they make risky or bad decisions.
Well, and as a business owner, for me, when I love Anastasia, she's awesome, but she's super helpful. And sometimes that is a detriment because I need her to be super helpful, helping me with graphics and helping me get my clients' work done. And instead she's having to take care of something for us and try to figure something out. Whereas we could call you and you can do it for us. You can get it done. You can walk us through it. So you save me time, which in turn helps me make money. So, you know, you help my bottom line, which is, you know, a huge plus. We like that.
Yeah, definitely glad to be a part of the organization. And yeah, that's the truth. I mean, you have people who try to avoid getting IT professionals involved sometimes, and it ends up hurting the organization more than it helps because they can't focus on what they're good at. Everybody has a specialty. My specialty is IT and my team's specialty is IT. And, you know, an accountant needs to focus on their specialty of accounting and bookkeeping, and a president needs to, you know, guide and lead their business in whatever particular field they happen to be in. They don't need to be letting IT matters bog them down. I mean, I don't like to detriment my line of work, but if the grass was constantly growing around the office, the president isn't going to go out there and mow the lawn. They're going to hire somebody to do it. And that's along the lines of what we do. You know, it's a critical business function. It's an ongoing function, and you need to have somebody engaged to handle it all the time, not treat it like something that's, broken and needs to be fixed when, the toilet's not working. It's a lot more critical than, an inconvenience like a sink not working or a toilet not working.
Right, exactly. And actually, I was just sitting here thinking about, I bet we come across a similar problem. I have a lot of people who say, oh, I have a teenage son.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's awesome, but what does he know about marketing? And in your case, it's like, well, that's great. I'm glad he knows computers, but exactly how much does he know? Does he have these certifications? Does he have these degrees? Does he know all of this? So for your team, and you have a team, how many? You have seven different people?
Yeah, including myself, there's seven technicians on staff, growing fast. We've been just on fire. If it wasn't for this pandemic, we probably would have hired another technician already. And but we've been fortunate enough to come through this mostly unscathed. Some of our customers had to cut back and shrink their staffs and end up having to shrink us a bit, but at the same time we've had new people come on board, so we're in good shape and we're ready to help more people that need our help.
Yeah, no, and like I said, I think you do a wonderful job. We're really excited to be working with you. So when we first started, one of the first things we talked about was the fact that I'm spending so much time on Zoom. And you said, what do you think the best conferencing platform is? And it completely surprised me. So why don't you tell everybody, what is the best video conferencing platform?
Well, the answer to that really depends on what you're already making use of. It's best not to overcomplicate your systems by having a bunch of separate solutions. So most small businesses out there have either G Suite by Google or Microsoft 365. Both of those have a video conferencing solution. So in the case of Google, it's Google Meet. And with Microsoft, it's Microsoft Teams. And so, if you use a solution like Zoom, and I'm not trying to say anything negative about Zoom, I'll let everybody else do that for me. But the one downside of Zoom is that you have to set up another account. It's another thing to manage. And also it's something else to pay for when you use the professional version of it, when you're probably already paying for a similar solution through Google or Microsoft.
Well, and that was one of those face palm moments where you're like, oh my God, why didn't I think of that? Of course I've got it. It's right there. When I schedule something, I'm going into Zoom, I'm copying my meeting thing, I'm putting it into my calendar, and then I'm sending it to somebody. Whereas if I use G Suite, which is what I do, I can just say, let's make it a Google meeting, and it's right there. All they have to do is click on it and we're ready to go.
Right.
So
it's integrated into your calendar too.
It's just I feel like an idiot for not knowing that. So I want to remind you, if you're watching this today, you can leave us a comment. We can see it. We can comment back. And actually, I learned something new yesterday. It's only taken me 3 weeks to figure this out. But when you comment, if you're commenting on Twitter, I'm actually getting that. I can comment through Twitter. Before I was commenting kind of sporadically and it was going to Facebook by accident, but I can actually comment to you on Twitter. So if you have a question, let us know. We can also pull you up on the screen. So if you have a business and you have a comment about your business and how you're using technology, be sure to say, hey, I'm Michael with AbleSpark, or I'm Kurt with AbleSpark, or whoever you are, and let us know what your business is as well. That will get your name out there, which is one of the reasons I'm doing these meetings, because I think it's important to help small businesses. So now I always send, Andrew, you said you haven't been able to watch these, but I do. I send everybody something that says, hey, tell me what your talking points are. What are we going to talk about? And you stumped me with 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi and its challenges. So tell us a little bit about that, and then we can talk about why, once you explained it to me, it's important.
Well, I'll be your 501st subscriber on YouTube. So
oh, thank you. I would appreciate that.
help you be less of a nerd, as your kids put it.
Yeah.
Well, you know, with the increased working from home user base, we've seen a lot of problems come up related to wireless Wi-Fi, and one of the more common reasons is because they're using the 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi rather than the newer 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi. And to try to put it just in simple terms, it's a lot like if you're familiar with a two-way radio and how they have different channels and different bands. You know, you might think of 2.4 as one type of band, maybe like Citizens Band CB, and then you know, the 5 gigahertz is FRS, one of the newer ones. Doesn't go as far. That's a different matter.
Yeah.
But so 2.4, it was put into use in the late 90s, and here we are in 2020, and it's still, because of its longevity, pretty much every device is compatible with it. What the biggest problem with it, though, is that there's only 11 channels on it, and most of those channels interfere with their neighboring channels. So if you're on channel 6, for instance, channels 5 and 7 are also negatively impacted, and of course channel 6 is. So if you're in a we'll say congested area like an office building or an apartment or condo building or just in townhomes, 2.4 has you'll be picking up your neighbors' networks, and they'll be interfering with yours because the network signal is very strong. It goes as far as 150 feet when there's no physical interference like walls. And you don't have to be joined to their network or anything like that. If their network's using channel 6 and your network's using channel 6, you two are fighting for the open space on it. And one way I like to put it is like, if you're on a walkie-talkie, you can't be talking on the same channel in English as someone else who's talking on the same channel in Spanish. You know, you may not be able to understand each other, but you still interfere with each other. And right. So the newer 5 gigahertz standard, you'll find it mentioned on the packaging of either your devices or your routers as either, you know, explicitly. A lot of times it'll say dual band, and the two major advantages of it are that there's way more channels available. So there's less likelihood that in a congested area that you'll be on the same channel. And actually, I guess there's a third one. There's the second one is that the channels are much, much wider. So in the 2 gigahertz spectrum, it only goes up to 50 megabits per second, but in the 5 gigahertz, it goes up to, I want to say 150 in the basic channels. Okay. And then lastly, and this might sound like a bad thing, but it's actually a good thing, the signal is much weaker. So instead of your signal and your neighbor's signals going way beyond their houses, it probably barely makes it out of their houses. So it also means that it doesn't get into your house and interfere with your equipment. So okay. The weaker signal is actually a good thing. And, you know, while if you have a larger property, a larger office, or a larger home, it means that you have to have more equipment. It means much better signal and reliability for okay. everybody who's using it.
Well, then now I have 2 questions. So first of all, do I buy a new router for that?
Well, no. If you have anything that's relatively new, especially in a home environment when you get it from your internet provider, it probably already has it. I know that Comcast and Verizon, but by default, their network names will include a tag at the end that'll say something like 5G. Okay. So you'll have 5 gigahertz if you have that. Now, if that doesn't reach throughout your house, there's a couple of ways that you could address that. The ideal way is to add access points, and you know, it's not typally
writing it down.
It's not usually that feasible in a house, though. So because the ideal way of doing that is to run wiring from your central networking point to where this access point is. Everybody likes to talk about extenders and repeaters, and those things typically are awful. I strongly recommend against most of them. The way that you want to do it is that you run a wired connection from where your internet comes in to the access point, and that access point independently serves the Wi-Fi of the area that it can reach. There are some higher end mesh systems that do it in the correct way. You know, one of the problems with the ones that do it, most wireless repeaters, is they basically cut the signal in half. They use half the signal to receive it, and then half the channel width to rebroadcast it, and it ends up degrading the signal for everybody. Some of the better equipment will use a second channel to communicate with the other wireless access points and do it wirelessly. You really want to do your homework if you're considering a mesh system.
Well, I would love to talk to you about that, because we've got to figure. I think I told you before we started. Our house is really funny, Andrew. You get a kick out of it. It's a 1942 house, and so it's kind of secret. It's like you can't hear from any room. You go downstairs and there's like rooms that you're like, where the hell did that room come from? I just bought this house. I didn't know it was here. But so one of my sons is working downstairs in the basement on what used to be a screened-in porch and is now a bedroom. So that's kind of off the house, but through a brick wall.
Right. Yeah.
And my other son is working just behind me. Actually, you can't see it, but there is a garage. And then above the garage, he's working. And so he's getting no Wi-Fi, and the son downstairs is getting no Wi-Fi. And it's become a nightmare for us. So I'm sure other people are having these same issues in their homes, and especially because we're all trying to work on Wi-Fi. You know, the kids are doing it, the husband's doing it, everybody's on the Wi-Fi system. So I'm sure you're getting a lot of people saying, oh my God, what's happening? So yeah, so you can help people with that sort of thing if they're working from home.
Absolutely.
You know, yeah, and you can help not just the individual, but you can help a business who's got their people who are now all working from home.
Yeah, so, and you know, we focus. We're a business service, so you know, we definitely want to be helping people get their work done. You know, while we're capable of helping individuals in their home use, that's just not a crowd that we that we go after, I guess I'll put
it. Exactly. But right now you're helping people get their teams up and running in their houses. So that's very, very helpful. And for us, we've got 5 people working in 5. Well, Ethan works from home here. So we're working in 4 houses, 5 people. All right, let's talk about vigilance in this time. What's happening in the time of crisis? What sort of scams are people coming across?
Yeah, well, it's a lot of repeating the same thing that typically people are dealing with in any day in just normal business, but they are focusing around the crisis. So for instance, one of our customers got an email that was purporting to be from the Small Business Administration, asking them to fill out information related to the Paycheck Protection Program, or the PPP. And you know, if they weren't vigilant about it, if they weren't suspicious about it, they might have thought it was legitimate. And I mean, that program asks you for everything about you and your business, and all of your employees even. So, you know, a successful perpetrator using that scheme would get a ton of valuable personal information. And you know, that's just one of the big reasons we have to be vigilant. But specific to not so specific, but just kind of the attitude that people are having during this crisis is that things are more fast and loose. So, you know, instead of doing things the way you're accustomed to, you end up getting directions from your coworkers or from your supervisor or whoever. And, you know, you might be more apt to just follow them at face value, not pay attention to who it's from, you know, because we can't meet in person. Let's go through this. So if you get a meeting invitation from what appears to be your boss. And well, it could be a phishing scheme. It could be malware. And you end up sharing information or letting a bad piece of malware into your system. And before you know it, your system's all locked up and somebody's demanding a ransom out of you or something like that. So, you can't just let your guard down in this situation. The schemers and the scammers and the criminals are all out there still trying to make a living the way that they make a living. And,
right.
And today, just like any other day, you still need to be suspicious. So check the email addresses that you receive things from. And I can't stress enough how important it is to look at the address bar before you type any information into a page. So
yes.
if the page looks like, say, bankofamerica.com, you need to make sure that the address bar says https://bankofamerica.com. And whatever other website you're looking at, anybody can make a look-alike website, and they can put the wording and pictures in that say this site is secure, but they can't fake a secure address bar, at least not without putting malware on your computer to make that go through.
Yeah, and I'm always surprised by that. I had a client who thought they'd renewed their website, and then she says, "But I just got another thing saying it's due again." And I said, and we went back, and of course she had paid somebody who was not her website provider. So, and she just hadn't looked at it. So when we back and looked at the email, it was clear it had come from somebody who was clearly not her email or her website provider. So yeah, you've got to be very, very careful, and what is the thing that don't click the accept button until you've actually read what it says you're accepting.
Absolutely.
It's something that's really important. So I like this. I think it's really important, proactively working with your IT team instead of making decisions on your own, working with your IT team. So tell us how they do that with you.
Yeah. So, we're at the disposal of our clients, and, the large majority of our clients have fixed rate contracts with us, meaning they don't get charged for calling us or using us or anything. It's the same fee every month. And so we have that arrangement. We figured that's the best way to do business because it leaves the channels open. There shouldn't be any barrier to them reaching out to us when they need to make plans or they need consultation. Unfortunately, it still happens though. People don't think to call us, or they just are panicking and reacting, and they end up doing things that just aren't the right way to do it. So for instance, we've had one or two people sign up for a VPN service to secure their network when they were away from the office. And after the fact, when they talked to us about it, I explained to them how it was completely unnecessary because they were using a cloud solution, 365 in this case, and Office 365 is secured on the internet through using HTTPS. So there's no need to sign up for a third-party VPN solution. And but we see people making mistakes that have to be cleaned up after, whether it's for instance, instead of having a proper file sharing solution, they might email stuff back and forth. They might sign up for a bunch of free Gmail accounts or whatever, and then they'll have fallout from that. Using Gmail, for instance, not to pigeonhole Gmail, but any free email service. It's under the control of whoever has the username and password. So you might have a company who normally shares files on a network drive in their office, and now that they're not in the office and they didn't have intercompany email, which, believe it or not, there are plenty of companies out there that don't have intra-company email, I should say. And so they need to come up with a solution. So instead of asking us, they end up making their own solution. As long as it works, it's good enough half the time, and they end up making a big mess that has to get cleaned up afterwards, like a medical office emailing medical records back and forth without doing it correctly.
Right. Well, and there's so many things that people don't think of until they absolutely need it, So we just talked to a doctor's office who laid somebody, they laid somebody off, And then that person had access to all of their accounts. They didn't get rid of, that access. And she sat in the parking lot and could get the Wi-Fi and downloaded, patient files. So they lost a lot of money. They were fined $75,000 for that one mistake. Wow. It was, that was a big mistake. So you've got to be much more vigilant about that, and having a team who can tell you, so this is what you do. If you let somebody go, these are the steps you take, So,
and we take most of those steps for them. So, they tell us, hey, not that I like to talk about letting people go, but it's been an unfortunate regular conversation these days.
Yeah.
We are alerted in advance of whatever the plans are. We disable all the accounts. We bring up the concerns and tell them what they might need to do from a business process standpoint, depending if it's, a special employee, like it could be like an assistant bookkeeper or something. So that, you might need to change these accounts with this third party or something like that. And, not too long ago, one of our customers was in the habit against our regular advice to the contrary. They were in the regular habit of having everybody with a very similar password. And I with having to lay people off because of the PPP, it finally resonated with them. It's like, hey, if you let go of this person and they know that everybody's password is the same thing, what's going to stop them from logging into someone else's account that's still employed there?
Right.
And then they finally, we were able to convince them it's time to have a better password policy. Nobody, as far as IT is concerned, we don't need to know your password. We don't care. We have access to the management systems that let us reset your password, whatever it may be, should the need arise. And the other side of that too is it gives you a bit of privacy, because if I reset your password and I don't know what it was, somebody tampered with your account. And, obviously I should only be tampering with your account at your direction. I shouldn't be getting into your stuff. And
right, exactly.
So, things like that, you got to make a plan for, it's best to have IT in the conversation all the way down the path as you're deciding on doing something differently, whether it's opening up a new location, considering a new system, because I've saved people from signing up for really bad systems before. And then I've had people who didn't consult me, and then they signed up for this really bad system and went through like 2 years of, just agonizing pain dealing with this, just subpar system. And it's funny, there was a medical practice, they were signing up for a cloud system, and we could probably talk all day about the word cloud, but this system, they gave me the information to access it. I said, hey, I want to look at this before my customer moves over to it, and they sent it to me. And it was in the convention of basically URL followed by a number. And I just subtracted one number from that that address, and they gave me the usernames and password were user 1 password 1, user 2 password 2, which all sounds terrible on the surface, but the way I took it when I first saw it was like, okay, they expect us to change that. But I changed the number, got into another practice's system, changed it again, got into yet another practice's system. Anyway, I did this about 15 times, and then I told my customer, look, you can't use these guys. They clearly are hands off. They didn't prep their customers for using this system and securing this system. We have 15 other medical practices that basically allowed a complete stranger to get into it without with zero effort, basically. And so I saved them from doing that. And his goal, the president of that company's goal, was to make this same system available to all of their locations. They have about 10 locations. And we were able to build an in-house system that met all those goals and is, of course, secure. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, the great and scary thing about talking to you, the great and terrible thing about talking to you, is that you scare the hell out of me. But it's the same thing. It's great because it makes me go, what am I doing wrong? Let me make sure Andrew knows this and he can help me with that, right? And then it's just scary. You know, it might keep me from sleeping tonight if I think about all the things that could go wrong. So it's good to have you on my team. I think that's an important thing. So let's talk about, though, you have a way of doing things, and it's not a break fix model. So explain that a little bit to us.
Yeah, so we offer our service under a maintenance model, and really the best way to sum it up is that we are the IT department for your business. So if you're a smaller company, you might think of us like a part-time presence or even like a part-time employee. And if you're a larger company, you might think of us as a full-time presence. I mean, there are several of our customers that we have a daily interaction with them, and the value we bring over say having a full-time employee there, instead of there just being one full-time employee, there's 7 of us and growing. And right. And then all of the tools and processes that we bring to make it more efficient. So for instance, we include backup on all of our new contracts and monitoring and maintenance and antivirus. And then plus, one of the big things that seems to that a lot of companies who don't have this type of arrangement with a company like mine seem to miss is that it puts the responsibility of these IT matters on us. Because our contract is fixed, I don't get any more money if I have to work at your office for 20, 30 hours in a month than I would if I had to work 10 hours in your office. It motivates me to prevent issues, and that's only good for your company. The less issues you have, the less downtime you have, the more productive your employees are. And that's counter to the break fix hourly model where the IT, I'm not trying to say that other IT companies would do anything unethical, but they certainly are less motivated to do things in a way that prevents future service.
Right.
So, if they can throw it together and it works, and on the surface the customer's happy, they're able to work, but then, a month, 2 months later, it becomes another problem. As long as the customer's not complaining, those guys are happy because, hey, we have more work, we make more money. And right. It's just not the right way to do. The IT needs to be a partner in the business. They need to be on the same side of the discussion instead of having the adversarial relationship. It's like, hey, why did we get charged for 10 hours? Shouldn't this have taken 5? It's like, well, that conversation never comes up with us because we are empowered to work as long as we need to get it done. We're responsible for it. And, we're also encouraged to do it the right way. So if I can get it working in 2 hours, but get it done and working correctly and reliably in 10 hours, me and my team, we're encouraged to do the 10 hours. We can't charge you anymore for it, but it's we're responsible for it. So we don't want to have the downtime, the complaints, and we want this relationship to be a regular, ongoing 10-year plus relationship, not a break fix. Oh, we saw you for 2 hours and we'll never see you again kind of thing.
Right. Well, and in that model, I think also people hate it when I say this, but you're forgettable. We're all forgettable, right? So if you have that model, you go, I've done it myself. I'm like, who was that guy? Who was that electrician I used? And I'm like, I knew I'd remember him. I liked him so much. And I can't for the life of me remember him. So I go and I look up another electrician and I find somebody else. So it's a good model from a business standpoint as well, from your standpoint, because people know you, they have you there.
Right. It's good for us. It's good for the customer. We're both on the same team rather than being on opposite sides. And, we end up becoming a part of the customer organization. Me and my team, we end up getting invited to various events, social events, Christmas parties, whatever it may be, retirement parties in a few cases. And, they come to know us and we become part of the team. And that's the way we like it. As we grow, we're going to actually split up into multiple teams to make sure that we have that small team feel. So, all of our customers will deal with approximately or around 5 people, depending on the specific team. And that way you don't ever get to a point where you feel like you're, calling a gigantic call center. And every time you call, you get somebody different, or every time somebody's service gets sent out, it's some stranger. It's going to be one of 5 people basically. And, you know, our customers love that about us. They love the small feel that we give off. And I mean, we are small right now, but even if we had 100 technicians someday, right?
Right.
We'll still have that small feel because, you know, we understand that you want to have a team of people that is familiar with you, not somebody who has to spend an hour looking back at back tickets to figure out who you are exactly.
Right. Well, and you know my business, right? You know, when I call you, you know exactly why we need our computers and what we're doing with it and why I can't have the downtime and how many people that's going to affect if I have downtime with my computer. So I really appreciate that. You know, I really appreciate that about you. All right. Well, I am really glad you came on today. How do people get in touch with you so they can find out how to bring you into you know, their offices? Yeah.
So I see you have our website on the screen there, and you can call us at 410-504-1949. And my extension is 700. And if it's a critical matter, you'd want to press 0 for technical support, not just going to me. We'll try to help you out while we figure out the details. We don't want somebody's system burning down while we figure out the details of the contract.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So, and we're going to encourage everybody to follow you on LinkedIn and follow you on Facebook. LinkedIn especially, we'd love some new connections over there, not just with Andrew Leonard, but with BL Technical as well. If you can follow what we're doing over there, that's a really good place to find you. So please do that. And and by the way, we connect back with people on both. We make sure that we're reciprocating that for you because we do your social media.
Yes.
So, yeah. So, all right. And by the way, that is something that I do by accident, but it's totally, and I think you do it too. We become we, you know, with a company, right? So BL Technical is I'm we with you. Whereas, you know, I think you're that way with us. You're like, I'm your IT team. We have to do this, right? So I think it's important for that. Yeah. So, all right. Tomorrow we have Kate Bradley Chernis from Lately. She is an amazing woman. She's the CEO. She was a DJ at a radio station, and she started a social media calendar that is pretty cool. It's artificial intelligence, and it's really, when you see it, you're not going to believe it's amazing. So join us tomorrow if you have questions. You can ask us comments down below, and we will comment back to you. We'll answer some of your questions, even if you didn't ask the question while you were online. Thank you so much, Andrew. I really appreciate you coming by. This is fun, isn't it?
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad you were here. All right, guys.